Good afternoon and welcome back after the lunch break. We are ready to restart our festival. My name is Jaro Miziak and I'm with the Euro-Mediterranean Center on Climate Change. If you have just joined our festival, so this is the fourth festival of climate innovation, climate services organized by the Climate Europe 2 project. And this is the right venue where you can learn about the climate services and what it's being done at the European level and elsewhere in terms of standardization, upscaling, or co-development. If you have connected to the previous sessions, welcome back. This session is dedicated to new projects, new initiatives at the European or national level. And we will be discussing innovative ideas in the context of the projects and activities related to climate adaptation and climate mitigation. This session is divided into two blocks. The first, we will have a panel discussion with three outstanding speakers, whom I will in a few seconds invite to join me on the floor. And that will focus on selected innovative approaches. Afterwards, we will have a series of pitch presentation about the new initiatives and projects, and we will be discussing how they can plug into the European community of climate service providers and users, and how they can contribute to the common objective. So without further ado, I would kindly ask our panelists, three panelists, to join me. We will have first Roxana Triboi, representing the city of Bucharest. Roxana is an urban planner and food security specialist, and she is working in Urban Act and Regeneration project, as well as many other European initiatives. And we are looking forward to learn from Roxana what's being done in Bucharest, in Romania. Then second speaker is Biljana Bazarin from Novi Sad, who is a professor at the university and professor of physical geography, specialized in climatology, climate change, and natural hazard. And she has plenty of interesting experiences also from Clear Climate Project that we are looking forward to learn more about. And third panelist is Georgios Silaios from Demokritos University of Thrace in Greece. And he's an expert on marine and maritime digital twins, and he is directing the Laboratory of Ecological Engineering and Technology. And he will be talking about Desermet. So thank you very much, colleagues, for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you. And perhaps we will start with Roxana. Roxana, can you tell us a little bit about your initiatives and how it might be interesting?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your invitation. So I am from Bucharest, currently working in Bucharest in two Horizon projects, which are called Regeneration, which are about creating inclusive neighborhoods, especially focusing on nature-based solution and inclusivity. And Urban Wise, which is a part of Net Zero City initiative. So we have a pilot area in Bucharest, which we are focusing on reducing carbon print by at least 20-25%. And in both initiatives, I am participating with a focus on the food system, like urban agriculture initiative, composting, and also decarbonization of the food chain. So how to connect consumer and producers at the local level. But I'm also, as you mentioned, first of all, I'm an architect and an urban planner and specialized on food system. And I'm also a specialist for URBACT and European Urban Initiative, and involved in several other European projects. I just concluded Erasmus Plus on food planning. and participated in different city lab, which are workshops for cities that support urban resilience with a focus on the food system. Regarding Bucharest, I'm also leading local food strategy, the first local food strategies for one district in Bucharest out of the 6 districts in Bucharest. So that's a bit my activity right now. Regarding Bucharest, these 2 Horizon project are a pioneer in terms of tackling climate change through a nature-based solution and social inclusion. So I don't know what to say. It's first time we approach this issue with living lab methodology, working together with the City Hall Research Academic Institute and local NGOs. And it's really interesting to do this in a post-socialist context when the collective mindset it's still to be developed in terms of taking responsibilities towards this kind of challenges like climate resilience at the individual or community level. I don't know what.
Oh, thank you, Roxana. This is fantastic. So I imagine in your activities, you come across a number of knowledge-intensive services, right? Demonstrate that the nature-based solution deliver as they are supposed to, and food security measures are informed by latest evidence, including the climate change projection and perhaps prediction. So, what is your take on how to ensure that the services are quality assured and follow a standardized approach to delivery, which is the main concern of the Climate Europe 2 community?
I think a general issue at European level, and maybe not only, it's multi-level governance frameworks. There's a lot to be done at this level. So ensuring reliability, scalability, multi-level governance coherence, it's very important. It's an aspect that I underline also in my assessment of urban agenda on food thematic. There's too much fragmentation of policies at EU level, at national level, at local level that hinder effective climate services. Just as food system resilience, considering that food system is responsible for 30% of carbon emission, and it's an important aspect to tackle. Another issue would be that we tend to approach climate resilience at urban level, and we should really have integrated approach urban-rural to tackle at the city region level. I think it's important. So creating an overarching policy framework, it's an important aspect to consider in that can support climate services. I don't know, cross-sector cooperation, open access data, I think are important. Yeah, that be, I think, the main takeaway regarding climate services.
Thank you very much, Roxana. We will get back to you in a moment to the governance aspect more in detail. But before then, I would like to invite Biljana. Biljana, you are representing Southeast Europe, being located in Novi Sad, and we are keen to learn a little bit more about the Clear Climate project you're working on, but not only, and your take on how to ensure the quality assurance and standardization of the knowledge-based services. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here. As you said, I come from Novi Sad, from part of Europe that is not as researched as the northern parts or central and western parts of Europe. That is actually why Southeastern Europe and Balkan Peninsula is really important, because in our previous research we actually saw that we lag behind a lot. And we managed to find partners who will, together with us, develop new form of climate services that will be actually developed for and with users. So we have this Clear Climate project that is that gathered 10 different partners, and we will try to develop a new framework of climate information services that will actually help us communicate our results better to the people around Southeast Europe. As you probably know, this part of Europe is actually, the inhabitants of this part of Europe are actually a little less concerned about climate change and climate impact than, for example, in Northern Europe. And there are actually a lot of people who don't even believe in climate change in this part of in Balkan Peninsula. And also there is a lag in these strategies, governmental strategies and stakeholders that actually there are documents, but are not in a good use, let's say. So we managed to collect a consortium of 10 different people, and we have a partner from Ghana, from Africa, who will help us deliver our results to the people who are less educated and less privileged, let's say, because they have a lot of experience in their previous project. Clear Climate project is a Marie Skłodowska-Curie staff exchange project, and it will focus on delivering not only the communication guidelines, but also state-of-the-art results in the climate science. So we will have people working on different issues in climate science, and then we will test the results by using psychological tools and sociological tools with the help of our linguists in the project to communicate the results in the best way. In that process, we will also try to find the way to make the climate information services as accessible as possible, so that it fits everybody, even people with disabilities or people that are colorblind, etc. And we have people who partners who are working on this part of including every group of citizens and every group of stakeholders. So we have a diverse fields, and what makes Clear Climate special and different in any other project that is dealing in developing climate information services is that multidisciplinarity. We managed to somehow combine natural sciences, social sciences, and humanities, and to present to European Commission that only in this way, working together with different fields, we will be able to produce the best possible results, and the uptake of these results will probably be much better and greater because we have all these different fields of sciences that take every aspect of users into account.
Oh, thank you very much, Biljana. This is really excellent examples. Congratulations for your initiative. I have two short information. Tomorrow we will be introducing the next in-person festival that will take place at the end of September and beginning of October in Belgrade, in your country. And the idea is to collect and bring together the community from across Balkan countries and speak about how climate services might help them. And the second point is a congratulations for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie staff exchange scheme. This is for those who are not familiar with that. It's typically Marie Curie Fellowship or individual grants for doing research. This staff exchange grant is about exchanging the manager and the teacher and the staff behind that, which is absolutely an interesting approach. And please do connect all your colleagues to Climate Europe. This is the home for discussing the ideas how to make it easier to understand. Thank you very much, Biljana.
You're welcome.
And Georgos, you have been working on a number of projects, and you have a large experience in developing climate services, but also more sophisticated digital twins and so on. And you are contributing to the DeSIRMET project, which is one of the mission adaptation demonstrator studies. So can you tell us a little bit about the project and what is the take on quality assurance of the evidence-based services? Over to you.
Thank you very much for inviting me and for the introduction. Indeed, we have a long experience here in Democratic University. We are based in northern Greece. We have a long experience in participating and coordinating Horizon projects. And we are at a phase where we implement and demonstrate most of these technologies through DeSIRMET. So we as university, we are the technical advisors of the regional authorities, or the regional authority of East Macedonia and Thrace in northern Greece, in terms of climatic services and in terms of the impacts that climate change will have in the various activities of socioeconomic sectors in the region. We also implement a series of demonstration pilot projects, which are part of DeSIRMET, in the framework of DeSIRMET. The first one is related to, because the main challenge that we face here, and I believe in most of the Mediterranean regions, is drought, is the mismanagement of fresh water. So we are developing technical solutions which have a direction towards precision irrigation. Precision irrigation is a technology in which we irrigate crops based on their exact demand in terms of water. And this technology allows us to save up to 30 to 35% of the water used when empirical irrigation is applied. And this is extremely important in cases, in periods where we have significant and extreme drought events. So we find that, and we will demonstrate through this technology in DeSIRMET, a series of pilot farms where we irrigate through this technology, but we will also expand it in municipal green spaces. So we will irrigate the parks and all the peri-urban spaces in order, again, to save water and to have a sustainable environment through better use and management of fresh water. In parallel, in two areas of my region, in a municipality, in a rural municipality, we will implement a new and a well-established technology, which is called constructed wetland. So it's a nature-based solution where we utilize the capacity of reeds to absorb and to consume the various pollutants which are situated in the wastewater. And this is something that gives us an opportunity really to minimize the requirements in terms of energy, the requirements in terms of consumables, and they don't need any personnel. At the outflow of a constructed wetland, you have a very good water quality, which can then be reused for agriculture, and this is what we intend to do in the case of DeSIRMET. So we will develop two constructed wetlands for the wastewater treatment. And then we have a third technology, which is related to the protection of the coastal zone, the protection of coastal dunes through the regeneration of coastal dunes with the use of geotubes, and also the use of geotubes as submerged breakwaters for the case of coastal shorelines and coastal zones where we have intense erosion. So these sort of technologies give us an opportunity really to replant Posidonia oceanica and other seagrass species in the environment of the outer space of the geotube. And this is something that we are testing for the first time, I have to say. And for this, I believe that Desert give us a high degree of novelty.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much, Yalla. So we have representative from different application field of knowledge intensive services. We have nature-based solution, the implementation, the design, and the verification to what extent they work. We have food security. We have broad public awareness and submission of the key climate indicators that are needed for spatial and adaptation planning. And we have also capacity building through the initiative that Biljana mentioned. I would kindly invite the audience, if you have questions to our panelists, to use the Q&A facility. And this is helping us to collect your comment, your feedback and question that you would like to pose to the panelist, and we will pass it over. So please do post your question in this facility. And in the meantime, I would like to ask a next question. We will be discussing how to make the knowledge intensive services, not only climate services in the narrow sense, but also services informing the design of nature-based solution or comprehensive food security strategies, how to make them broader, more impactful, how to bring them to a larger, wider use, how to upscale, right? This is the session where we'll be discussing the ways how to make sure that those tailored evidence-based advices are typically brought to the attention of those that might benefit from it. So perhaps I would again come back to you, Roxana, and ask you, what is your experience from upscaling or wider adoption of similar services from your experience of local or pilot project, and how to make them more impactful? So what in your opinion are the biggest challenges? Is it technical, financial, or governance type of?
I think, thank you for the question. I think they are all challenges. I would think of three pillars, like knowledge, regulation, and funding, and everything is important. So ensuring exchange of knowledge, any increase in capacity building, peer learning processes are very important. Cities are actually currently pioneers in prototyping solution for urban resilience, for local resilience. And I think the exchange between pioneer city and the less experienced cities is important. Funding, it's also a very relevant issue. And for example, building private-public partnership could be a solution. Also, multi-participatory processes are important. So engaging all relevant actors in the process, not only public bodies, but also NGOs and local community, academia. It's relevant, and of course, as I mentioned, governance, it's an important issue. Ensuring coherence at different level, it's important. So making sure that local regulations, it's in harmony with other national or European regulation, or it's also a way to tackle this. Yeah, so that would be for me the three directions to tackle, and everything is important.
Fantastic, thank you. I would like to remind also the audience, right, that the funding, the mission adaptation has provided a specific funding for local and regional authorities to apply for to improve the climate risk assessment and building upon it to develop an ecosystem of climate services within the jurisdictions. Let's say the funding, there are multiple forms of funding that you might tap into. Biljana, what is your take on upscaling and putting at a higher level the use of similar knowledge, evidence-based services, and what kind of challenges do you encounter?
Well, yeah, I think that we have a lot of knowledge on climate change, a lot of results all around Europe, not only Europe, but all over the world. We have different kind of pictures showing us what is going on. But these pictures actually can be understood by sometimes only by the experts. So we need to find a way to make these results that are actually science, pure science, easily readable and understandable by everyone. And by everyone, I mean also stakeholders, government decision bodies. We need to help them how to understand the result in the best way, so that they can produce the strategies and help us cope with the disaster that is actually coming in the future if we don't do anything. Also, we need to find a way to these a large amount of results and climate services already available for the people around Europe, to make them more accessible and easily readable by common people. For example, we all look at our weather forecast on our phone, what to do and what to wear for today. But sometimes these applications can be really confusing sometimes. And that is why, for example, we employed psychological techniques like tracking the eye movement to see how people are actually looking at this kind of data, so that we know in the future how to adapt and adjust these already existing climate services to their own needs. This is really important. And also in Clear Climate Project, we will have an activity with presenting the results to the stakeholders and to decision makers, and we will ask them to wear these eye tracking devices to see how they actually look at the data, what do they think? Because if you ask somebody a question, they will give you a subjective answer. But the eye movement, these are the subconscious and involuntary, and then you get the real, when you combine these two answers, then you get the real picture. So I think that combining different disciplines, combining different fields, and approaching different people in different area can only do us good, and make the climate information more accessible to everyone, and used in a let's say proper manner to deliver the best advice for the people, or to deliver the best strategies for one country or a region.
Thank you very much, Biljana. Now moving to Georgios, the same question for you, but in the meantime, there was also a question posted in the chat. So my question is, like the other panelists, what kind of mechanism can we use to ensure a bigger impact and larger uptake of evidence-based services? And the question that was posed by Alicia Montoya is, to what extent do you use also multi-criteria decision analysis tools when you are deciding about different design feature for your reconstructed wetlands or intervention like NBS? Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for these questions. I just wanted to say that here in Greece, we don't have a lot of experience in implementing NBS projects and making them operational and see how they perform in action. So for this purpose, when we were drafting Desermed, we wanted really to showcase the effectiveness of the systems. And to do that, we have a well-defined work package where we will monitor the effectiveness of each specific solution, and we will try really to use a series of KPIs, as we call them, key performance indicators, to show that these solutions work and can work in a climate change environment. This is extremely important because before you start thinking about upscaling, you need to know what are the limitations of each specific solution and what are the benefits and the costs, and of course, what sort of advantages and disadvantages lie for each specific system. So in terms also, we need to see to define that there is a quite long period of maturity for this type of systems for Greece. I believe in other countries as well. For example, constructed wetlands is a technology which is, in terms of science, widely used and widely adopted. There are plenty of publications and journals. However, in Greece, we have a very limited number of systems in operation. And this is because it's very difficult to persuade the authorities and the politicians really to change from the conventional way of thinking, the conventional systems, to a system which is completely different and uses plants. So you see that nature-based solutions are really something that evolves. And I believe that through these challenges that we now face in terms of climate change, we would evolve in a more rapid way. Now, in terms of the constraints, I would say that there are, of course, political constraints, there are financial constraints, although there are instruments and tools, and there is also a lot of funding. We don't see the interest of municipalities or regional authorities to test these solutions and implement them in real operational environment. It's very difficult to go from the conventional breakwaters to a nature-based system which uses Posidonia oceanica, meadows, or other ways where the soft solutions, as we say in coastal engineering. So I would say that there is a period of maturity for these projects, and we need to be extremely to define very well the KPIs and the indicators that showcase that these solutions are effective. The cost is the most important parameter. And I believe that in terms of cost, NBS have a cost of almost 30% of a conventional solution. So it's extremely important from this, starting from this position, to start persuading the politicians.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Really,
and the second question was about to what extent you are using the multi-criteria decision analysis tools.
We are using it in terms of deciding where to place an NBS. When we want really to start thinking on the design of a system, we need to also think where to locate it. So we use multi-criteria decision-making analysis in order to define, considering a series of factors, to define the best location of a system.
Thank you very much. Then we still have time for another round of questions, and this is connecting very nicely also to the question that Naketa posted in the Q&A toolbox. And this is about when we are considering the adoption of climate services by the intended end user, how and what kind of partnerships can be developed with policymakers, businesses, and civil society? Do we have some practical examples of how this partnership has worked out in specific situation in your working context and so on? And Naketa asked specifically, when you are building partnership, are national meteorological and hydrological institutions involved in those partnerships, or what is their role in your initiatives? Can I hand over to you, Roxana, first?
Thank you. In Regeneration Horizon project, we focus a lot of on the awareness process. So we have a lot of activities, interactive activity, mostly with local community. For example, we organize a session in school, in secondary school. We organize interactive activities such as Fresque du Climat. It's a French game on understanding climate change challenges. And we are organizing this with the local community, but also with public officer in the municipalities, because climate resilience it's regarding also energy department, land use department, food related departments in the city hall. So we're trying to raise awareness at all levels and involve all relevant stakeholders in co-creation processes. So they are involved from identifying the challenges to prototyping and implementing testing solutions. So that's for us the main approach. We have in this partnership consortium, local consortium in Bucharest, also the construction university research department, who establish a series of KPI to follow, to identify, to measure the impact. And unfortunately, other national institutions are not in the process, but I think we have already a pretty diverse consortium. I would like to underline the importance of businesses and private actors also to be activated in the process. And there are a lot of, as I said, public-private partnership that can be established in this sense. I think also always think about local solution to local issue. So in that they are identified and tackled in participatory process with local community, business owners, and other relevant stakeholders, academia, NGO. So that would be my answer.
Thank you. So for the audience, this is be local and be locally relevant to work with the institutions. Biljana, what is your experience from building partnership, especially with meta offices, but also other businesses and other partners?
Yes, it is a really similar situation as Roxana just explained. We, in our partnership, we don't have a partner from the National Meteorological and Hydrological Institution, but we are slowly building this relationship in Serbia. Our partners have a better connection with their national meteorological and hydrological institutions. And as we spoke to the different people from different institutions, we realized that we are actually missing a lot because we didn't reach out and invited people in the consortium, but it's never too late to correct the errors. So we will ask people from different institutions to join us in the stakeholder forums and other co-creation workshops, and also in the part where we will build the storytelling methodology and the communication guidelines, so everyone can give their own opinion, and also to see if they will be able to use it in their future work, so that the results of the project be sustainable and replicable in the future.
Thank you, Biljana. The Serbian Met Office is actually partner of Climate Europe too, and I don't know Alexandra Krzic. She's not probably connected now, but we can connect you and definitely during the in-person festival we can organize exchange and put you in contact with them. Perhaps there might be a future collaboration.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Biljana. And Georgios, what is your take on building partnership with Met offices and businesses, including for perhaps financing your intervention?
Yes, we are in contact with all scientific organizations, and we try to bring them in with all these initiatives that we are carrying out in Desertmed. Now, in terms of the participation and the active involvement of the various stakeholders, I would say that what I see now over the years, because in the past, when we had the research projects and we tried to involve stakeholders, they were not really actively engaged in all these activities. I see that climate change, all people understand that the impacts of climate change are important and they affect all socioeconomic sectors. So I see a lot of interest, especially from the farmers. In my area, the farmers were the most difficult to engage, but now with DesertMed, I see a lot of involvement of young farmers, especially people that start their activities in the field, and they are in the field all day, and they have a clear understanding of the changes of the climatic conditions over the years. And they are very much afraid about the management of water. Water resources management is extremely important now. Especially in Greece, we had a series of summers when we had very severe drought conditions, and this really affected the crop production. So I see a lot of interest of young farmers. I see a lot of interest of municipalities, especially in the use of these technologies and how to integrate them in the constellation of actions they carry out. And then I see a lot of interest from the civil society, the civil protection agencies, the water management authorities, a lot of broad public is also actively engaged and involved. So I think that climate change is giving us really the capacity to scientists to be heard and the capacity of the technologies to be shown. So I really remain confident that by the end of this 4.5 years project, we will have concrete evidence on the effectiveness of the solutions and the capacity to upscale them.
Thank you very much, Georgios, for this positive message, and thank you all panelists for sharing your thoughts. I kindly invite you and your consortia and your colleagues to join this community of Climate Europe 2, which is bringing together the experiences, best practice examples across a number of different fields that all constitutes elements of standardization of climate services. Thank you very much. As we move to the next part of our session, we will have a series of pitch presentation about recent initiatives, recently funded, recently started, or initiatives that started a little bit earlier and have something to share with us. So the first one is going to look at the water management, is about the BCP WISE project. And it will be presented by Lua Legaspi Jill, who is a innovation senior consultant on Barabes, which is a Spanish consulting firm specialized in digital transformation. And this project presentation will be shared with also Hans van Leuven, who is a program manager at STOVA, which is the Dutch Foundation for Applied Water Research, supporting regional water agencies, and Hans is leading the SAT Water project of STOVA. So may I invite you to join me, Lua and Hans. Thank you very much for being here. And I would kindly ask you to, provide us with more information about the project, potentially addressing the same questions. So how important is it to have a common standards, such as shared data format, validation protocol, to ensure reliability of climate services? What is your experience from upscaling and wider adoption? And what else is important to ensure that the services are used and useful for the users? So I think I hand over first to Lua and then to Hans.
Yes, thank you. So in first place, thank you very much for giving us the floor for and the opportunity for presenting our recently launched project. So we have prepared a short presentation, short PowerPoint presentation. I don't know if we can share our screen or
You're welcome to share your screen. Just
Okay.
To keep the time of something 8 minutes.
Yeah, sure. So thank you very much for that as well. So we'll be presenting shortly the main aspects of our project. Let me know if you can all see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So in a nutshell, our project is an EU-funded project via Horizon Europe program. So it comes from the activities and the results carried out and obtained from the project. So it's composed by 26 partners from 10 different partners countries. Among them, we have 12 public buyers and 14 support partners. It lasts from January 2025 until December 2027. So with an overall budget of almost 19 million euros. So one of the main specific points of the project is that it's structured based in a PCP instrument, so the pre-commercial procurement instrument. So the project aims to develop the innovative solutions concerning the water sector. So developing cutting-edge solutions for water management based, as I said, in the pre-commercial procurement instrument. So we will be focusing in three main challenges related to water, which are floods, fires, and infrastructure impacts, both in rural and urban areas. This will be further detailed by my colleague Hans van Leuven. Yes, that's the main objective. So. To have a little context of the project, as I have already mentioned it, but I think it's important to have this just in mind. PCP-wise comes from Protect. So we had during Protect we had like 5 application domains, the ones that are listed in the bullet points. But all in all, they realized there were no existing solutions available on the market or close to the market readiness for the water problematic. I mean, so it was needed to develop a new solutions for the management of water. So as I said, we have they identified 3 different challenges. So the ones I mentioned, and the common point was water. So in PCP-wise, we have initially identified 22 use cases. These use cases are being clustered defined into 5, which will be presented for them by Hans as well. So PCP-wise tackles a big challenge that has broad applicability across Europe, and we aim to develop solutions that can be used by a wide range of public buyers. So as to have a general overview of the project structure, we have 36 months of project, as I mentioned before. So we have 3 main phases. We are currently working on the first phase, which is the preparation of the PCP process. This comes from January 2025 until August this year, and the main objective is to prepare the tender documents. For this today's aim, we need to go step by step. So one of the main points in which we are working currently is the definition of the use cases, as again Hans will be detailing you. After that, we will have a few months period for the tendering itself. And then, from the beginning, more or less the first months of next year until the end of the project, we will have the implementation itself. Following the FIP structure schema, so we will have 3 sub-steps, which are the ones presented in that slide. So in phase 1, we will be focusing on the solution design. After that, phase 2 will come. So we'll be developing the prototypes in laboratory conditions. And the final phase will cover the test validation of the solutions. Yeah, so all in all, this is more or less the structure of the project. So now I leave the floor for a more technical view to my colleague Hans Leuven, who will be giving you more details in this context.
Yeah, perhaps beforehand, so I just wanted to flag out that Le Protect is not new to this community. It has been already presented, and we definitely believe pre-commercial procurement is absolutely necessary, an important aspect to elaborate. Also because in the mission adaptation, the local and regional authorities have received cascading grants, and they need to go through public procurement to use them. Hans, sorry, I'm eating your time. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. And also Lua. Very important is the message that we have a cross-border unified water taxonomy so that everybody knows the same figures on the groundwater and also the soil moisture in your profile, in your local situation. Because once you know, like the weather report, what the conditions are of your local water, soil, water, vegetation system, then you know if it's drying out or it's wetting. And once you know those directions on the short, middle, and long term, you understand also where you have structural losses of water and where you have structural excess of water. And both extreme situations induced by climate can force all kinds of excesses and impacts on your area, not only rural, but especially also in city areas. And that's why we have, from the 22 use cases all over Europe, we have selected 5 representative use cases spread over Europe. We have a map later, can show you that. And we have lead parties who will also demonstrate what their problems are and how could we then solve those problems with information on your water system. We will ask the market to be creative, to use Earth observation, but also modeling, AI, and also prior knowledge from your city and rural context. So together with a group of 10 buyers, those are representative bodies who buy information for their local managers, city managers, nature managers, or water managers, agricultural sector, all kinds of sectors who need this daily information on local level to make decisions on how to anticipate to those extremes. So we clustered those and we are now in the process. We just started 3 months ago. We are clustering those requirements of the different problem cases. And from there on, we are going to put that into the requirements of the procurement process of the PCP. And then we will present it to the market and then let them be creative and to give solutions. Next one. Yeah, so a little bit more in detail on the urban part in Helsinki. This is the representative urban area where they have problems with groundwater and drought and also subsidence as a result of the drought and the low groundwater tables. They get problems also in the cities in Rotterdam and in Delta areas. You have problems with foundation of buildings and streets and we're lowering. And that causes a lot of problems with the utility sector. The second one in Bratislava is more in the east of Europe, Slovakia. You have all kind of problems with flooding, also drought. So the extremes too dry and too wet causes a lot of problems. And we want to have a risk assessment on that. And what type of crisis can we prevent? And therefore also not only regular, but also crisis stakeholders are involved. And in the rural area, we have for drought, for Northwest Europe and South Europe and for Western Europe, also examples of agriculture, but also nature and also peat subsidence issues, which we're going to demonstrate. Next one. Yes, I think it's a little bit shifted. No, I think it's okay. So on the left, you see the 5 representative test sites and use cases, which I just showed you. And on the right-hand side, we have a validation site. Those are 60 different pilot sites, which already has been modeled, but it's on point location. So the strong issue is that we have spatial mapping and also in time, daily information, every 100 by 100 meter, which will show also in history. We look also 20 or 30 years back so that you see what are the trends of drying and wetting out in urban and rural area, and how can we use that also for climate scenarios. So if we know what happens in the past, and also what the weather scenarios for the future are. Every meteorological policies has different weather scenarios for climate adaptation for the coming 40 or 50 years in place. So we can use the past, the hindsight, to make a better prediction. And of course, because of the dynamics, it's very difficult to predict. So you need the experience every time and to learn what are the increasing risks and what's the frequency of occurring that, and what are the spatial patterns to study that. Next one.
Hans, just to mention that you should wrap up within 1 minute to be able
so
to
I'm ready, because this the next stage is we have to define what are the functional requirements to support the different organizations and the stakeholders who wanted information in the future to take measures, and not only on the short term, but also on the long term on climate. And therefore we have the next one, and that's the last slide. And we have information requirements derived from those organizational processes, those functions. And then this will lead to technical specs for the market. And that will be the service portfolio for WISE in the future. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for our community. I mean, this is absolutely interesting. If I have got it correctly, this project is also developing a sort of a taxonomy that might be used throughout the pre-commercial procurement. This is something that our colleagues working on different parts of standardization might be very interested in. And there's one question that I would simply pass to you now, but there will be a discussion at the end of the presentation. So you will have some time to think about it. And this is about the connection between wildfire and groundwater management, recharge and management. And to what extent do you think that we need to invest more into better understanding of this connection? Thank you very much for the time being. And now let's move to our next speaker. And this is going to be Loden Kremer from Wageningen Environmental Research, who is a specialist on spatial planning and environmental technology. And he will introduce us to the EnviMed project that is developing a digital twin for designing climate adaptive urban spaces. Very important and very topical. Loden, just remember, we are very interested in common standards. How do you consider them, upscaling and wider adoption, and partnership, and what else could be used? So over to you.
Okay, yeah, thank you for having me. Let me share my screen real quick, because I also made a presentation. Alrighty, I think they should be good by now.
Perfect. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to my short keynote presentation where I'm using EnviMed as a digital twin for standardizing the evaluation of local climate adaptive designs. So first things first, a little bit about myself. I'm Loden Kremer. I'm a researcher at Wageningen Environmental Research and working in the interface of nature-based solutions and urban climate adaptation. And I've used the program EnviMed in a couple of projects and for multiple purposes. But today I'm going to focus on the last one, which is a research by design project for designing multifunctional quay walls in Amsterdam. And this requires a standardized evaluation method because you need to compare different key designs. So I thought it was best suitable for this keynote. So this the setup real quick. So first I'm going to introduce EnviMed, what the project is. Later I'm going to talk about what the project, what the multifunctional quay walls in Amsterdam entails. The project is still going on, so I just got my first results, but I think it's still a good way to present the methods, and then I'm going to round up with some conclusions. So first things first. EnviMed is a 3D modeling tool for simulating complex urban environments, and it's mainly on a local scale. So you need to think that not really bigger than a neighborhood, so mainly like just buildings or streets. It considers local input parameters and it looks at different types of cubes with certain properties, and then uses the fundamental laws of fluid mechanics, thermodynamics, and atmospheric physics to calculate the effect of green measures on its environment. And some parameters that it looks at are air temperature, surface temperature, the perceived temperature, in which the indicator is the physical equivalent temperature. This is an important one for this presentation, at least. And there's a whole library of like different types of tree species or other green measures that you can choose from, or you can create your own, like I did in the bottom right image for a green pergola at an industrial site in the northeastern part of the Netherlands. Envimet is a European company. It was founded in 2014 in Germany, and last year was acquired by One Click LCA, which is also a private market company. So this illustrates that there is some existing market interest in these kind of phenomena. Currently, it's widely used in scientific research, so it's been validated a lot, but it hasn't really been applied that much into practice. And my theory behind that is that it's quite time-consuming. Yeah, but that's quite time-consuming and therefore pretty expensive. So the case study, the project that I'm going to talk through quickly on how to use Envimet, on what Envimet could be used for, is about the multifunctional key walls in Amsterdam project. The problem statement is that a lot of the foundation of these keys are rotting and therefore collapsing. So in the near future, or in 2100, approximately 200 kilometers of quay wall need to be replaced or reconstructed in Amsterdam, and that's a huge challenge, and therefore lots of innovation is required, which offers opportunities for bringing more functionality into the quay walls. I'm mainly focusing on climate adaptive and therefore reducing the heat stress. And one of the main multifunctional things that we know of nowadays are trees, because like trees can provide a lot of ecosystem benefits, but the amount of ecosystem benefit they are producing is mainly dependent on the size of the tree. And in Amsterdam, the size is often limited by the rootable volume, since the tree can always access the groundwater and nutrients. So on the image on the right below, you can see that all these trees have been planted simultaneously, but that the trees on the left have grown much poorer than the trees on the right. And therefore, we want to create the optimal tree orientation and create enough rootable volume for the trees to provide as much ecosystem benefits as they can possibly do. And in my case, this is for an optimal reduction of heat stress. So first we linked the rootable space to the expected maximum tree size, and in the center of Amsterdam, it's UNESCO heritage, and they're mainly elm trees planted. So we just looked at this specific case also because the planting site is very unique in this case. And then we continued by a research by design, in which we first looked at the baseline of the water. So what are the canals looking right now, and what are potential future canals going to be looking like? So we want to compare that in terms of how well they reduce the heat stress. So I'm just going to talk briefly about the narrow key. So there's a distinction between the narrow and wide keys. Narrow keys are the yellow ones in this map, and they're mainly oriented in northeastern direction. And here you can see some of the dimensions that the narrow key often entails. But one thing with the narrow keys is that they have inconsistent planting distance. The wide keys have a planting distance which is defined by UNESCO, but the narrow keys haven't. And the planting distance is directly linked with the rootable volume. So a tree that has a planting distance of 9 meters has a lot less rootable volume than a tree that has a planting distance of 18 meters. Here you can see the model, what it looks like, and together with some of the input data, I took the input data of a situation that can occur quite often during future summers, because then this is a situation at which we can get a lot of benefit. What happens quite often. And this is a first result. So like what you can see is a top-down view of the key, which the absolute reducing of the physical equivalent temperature, which is the perceived temperature. So the darker the color, the more cooling occurs. And what you can see, for instance, is that on point 3, it's the darkest color. So and this is where the largest trees are, and the reducing of perceived temperature of approximately 9.6 degrees occurs. Regarding to a small tree, which is located at point 1, only has a decrease of 6.6 degrees Celsius. Yeah, so what you can see is that larger trees reduce significantly more heat stress than smaller trees. Another way to visualize this is in a graph. This graph states the amount of the key that at which a certain heat stress level occurs. So and the black bars are talking about the baseline excluding the key. So this is just the canal where no trees occur, and the green ones are whenever the trees are planted. So using this method, you can see what the heat reducing effect of the trees is. So currently, approximately 40% of the key is experiences a moderate heat stress, and approximately 60% of the key experience a strong heat stress, which is reduced by applying the trees in this scenario to 40% minimal heat stress and 60% moderate heat stress. So it's approximately a full category of heat stress less, what we could say. And this is the way we're gonna compare the results of the different designs with. So I can imagine in the future when we get a new design to evaluate, we're going to use the same method, and a new color occurs here, yeah, which we can compare to the green design to see if it performs better or worse than the current design. This just to illustrate, we did this for the wide canals and the narrow canals, and with different angles to the wind, and this illustrates the huge difference between the orientation and between like local differences. So how important it is to actually do a microclimate simulation to find out where to apply measures, and which measures should be applied whenever there's more wind or less wind, or more shade or less shade, for instance. So these are some first insights. This is my penultimate slide. So what you can see is that you could rather invest in tree quality than over tree quantity. So creating more healthy tree boxes, for instance, at which larger trees can grow, then the perceived temperature can be reduced by up to quite 50% more than smaller trees. Also, it shows that the current data shows that the trees are super important for reducing the heat stress, because it can be reduced from a strong heat stress level to a minimal heat stress level just by the current design. And that even like small local changes, like the orientation of the key, can have a huge difference in terms of the perceived temperature. Yeah, which shows that wind plays a huge factor in how heat get experienced.
Yeah, thank you very much, Loudon. Unfortunately, we need to move, so we have really narrow time frame for. Thank you very much for exposing us to this. The community, I know there are many those that are working on heat stress, and they might be highly interested in your research and your result. Thank you again. I would like now to invite Chiara Bernardini from Jerix. To introduce us, well, not really introduce, because Climate Bureau has been already presented, but Chiara will have an interesting update. And again, Chiara, we kindly invite you to reflect about the standardization, what help us, what kind of common standard help us, upscaling and wider adoption, and what else can make sure that this climate services are used.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chiara Bernardini. I work at Jerix, and I'm gonna presenting a presentation which authors are listed here below on the right. I'm just the presenter, and I will present towards climate resilient cities and multiple pathways to support climate adaptation in urban areas. We see cities as complex systems which face cross-cutting issues spanning from impacts and extreme climate extremes and systemic problems in general. And they can be seen as climate change drivers. In a sense, they contribute to greenhouse gases emissions, but also as catalysts for transformation. And they are grounds of experimentations for actions towards climate neutrality. So against this background, cities have many and diverse needs and requests. And here are just some examples of typical questions we are asked by stakeholders, like how can we make climate information understandable and appealing for users, for example? Or how do we make sure that the climate services is used after the founded research project ends? This is a problem everybody of us know about and happened to everybody to think about that. Or how can we communicate to forest visitors, for example, that adaptation measures in our city forests urgently needed and useful? So these are like real questions that cities have. They wonder what impacts they are going to face and how can they react. Or they see what events happen somewhere else, like in our valley, and that cause great destruction. They wonder what would happen if in their cities such an event would occur, or how to involve citizens in actively engage in city transformation processes. What strategies can empower local communities to take a leading role in governance and maintenance of nature-based solutions, for example, or how to identify and prioritize punctual mitigation and adaptation actions, how to assess and monitor the effectiveness of implemented actions towards climate neutrality, how to award the most climate resilient works, goods, and services among the market offer of suppliers in public procurement processes, and many other questions. What's JERIC's response? JERIC's response through different services articulated into in-depth needs assessment and climate services co-design, the provision of climate information models at many scale. We are also much engaged in capacity buildings and citizen engagement processes, and we provide tailored urban climate support services at the prototype stage. Here are just some examples of projects and products that are the results of JERIC's activities. And I will go through some examples of these many services we provide to cities, starting from the needs assessment and climate services co-design example of Stadtbachhausen. So through continuous and in-depth cities stakeholders consultation along the years, we identified the need for a flexible tool to address, let's say, a whole range of actions applicable in all regions and scale. So we co-developed Stadtbaukasten, which is our first city toolkit. So the idea behind is to have many different and independent, but easy to combine and easy to use modules, which address different important aspects of urban adaptation. This tool was tested in many cities all around Germany, and it's applicable and transferable to the regional scale or the local scale or even the sub-local scale. Here is an example of urban climate information and models we provide and some projects we implemented along the years. I will not go in deep because this is like typical climate models you all know about. But we do put much effort in the co-development of our tools, which assures that these tools are usable independently by cities. This is the final aim. So here is, for example, the experience with Palm4U model, which was tested and co-developed in close connection, close collaboration with stakeholders. And our developing process was ending with a in-depth user training to assure that this was applicable and transferable in different contexts. Here is another example of how we involve citizens in participatory modeling, and we engage them through innovative art performances even and AI applications. So here on the left, you see, for example, our experience in ID Alert, which was a project, still ongoing one, in which we involve many different stakeholders in participatory modeling workshops to identify what are the needs, what are the requests of future users of our services. And here on the right, an experience in Hamburg about art exhibitions to sensibilize citizens about climate change issues in their city. About tailored urban climate support services prototype, I bring to you this example of a tool we co-developed with cities, with our partner cities in Climate Borough project, which enhances urban governance and climate-proof public procurements. It starts with the identification of weaknesses among like the different factors that compose urban governance. And through the identification of these weaknesses, we can identify leverage points in which intervene and apply climate services. So after the identification of these leverage points, we select and prioritize network interventions with the aim to spreading around the impacts of these interventions and the application of solutions in the different domains of urban systems. And this brings to the identification of what works, goods, and services are needed to implement these interventions. And this will be done through climate-proof public procurement processes. So climate services will be mainstreamed and integrated along all the stages of public procurement processes. This is a powerful leverage mainstreaming climate services into public procurement, since before having the opportunity to change the whole mentality of a whole community of people and populations around the world, what you can do is changing the choices of public authorities through choosing like the most sustainable solutions among different ones offered on the market in public procurement processes. So if cities' needs and requests are many and multiple, we try as JERICS to respond to real and priority cities' needs. So we assess real cities' needs, and through a sedimented process, we co-design our tools, and we provide reliable climate information tailored on cities' needs based on state-of-the-art high-resolution climate projection. We involve multiple stakeholders in the whole climate services co-development process, and we engage citizens through the whole process. What makes JERICS unique in supporting cities transformation is we can count on more than 45 disciplines and expertise among our staff, and we activated partnerships and networks all around Europe and beyond. You can see here just some examples, and we put effort in a direct interaction at the local scale. So we had experience with more than 45 cities in Germany, more than 30 cities in Europe, and 10 plus cities outside Europe. And after a decade of cities-focused research activity, we had the opportunity to contribute to important scientific and research reports like the IPCC-1 and UNDRR, and to give our contribution to state-of-the-art and top journal at the international level. So thanks for the attention. I hope I didn't go beyond the time.
No, you didn't. You did a perfect job. Thank you very much, Chiara, and
Thanks to you.
congratulations for the range of very successful climate services. And There's a lot of knowledge to learn from your project, and you as the JERICS as the key partner of Climate Europe, we will reach out to you to digest the most important lessons learned for the different works, work packages, work streams in the Climate Europe. So thank you very much again, and absolutely great job. Let's move to our last presenter of the speech presentation is Cristobal Reveco. He's also from JERICS, and he's representing the Valorada project. But I guess today we will learn about the cross-project initiative related to upscaling, how to create a common framework for upscaling.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Jaro.
Cristobal, over to you. Thank you.
And thank you for having me here. I also have a very short presentation. So it's just to give you an outlook of the work that we've been doing over the past few months with a large group of colleagues all across Europe. So it is about the thematic working group on climate services, and the endeavor is about upscaling climate services. So just to give a bit of a background, I mean, this is probably not new for any of this audience, but still it's good to just to set the ground. Just let me click here quickly. Okay. So it is about the increasing number and quality of climate services that is expanding based from different communities of practices and governments, non-governmental organizations, private sector initiatives. So we see this proliferation of very good climate services. But still, we see also that there is this usability gap affecting many climate services. That means that maybe a climate service is developed, a very good prototype is created, but then when it comes down to the practical use of that climate service, is not necessarily leading to improved decisions in terms of adaptation or resilience. There is also, for a number of years, been noticed that there is a low adoption of climate services, which brings to the forefront the concept of upscaling, and as a challenge to both scientists but also climate service developers, mostly from the impetus that developing a climate service can be quite expensive. It can take a lot of time and require a lot of commitment from different stakeholders. And then the question is, how can we multiply and accelerate the uptake of climate services across Europe? So just to give you a bit of a background, this is based on a paper published in 2023 by Galina Getchev and colleagues, where they did this very interesting literature review and defined upscaling as the ability to transfer, repeat, use, institutionalize a climate service developed in a specific context into different institutional, operational, or geographic contexts, organizations, or economic sectors. So they provide this very rich description of what upscaling is all about. And also the interesting thing about this article is that it builds on the experiences from different disciplines and areas, from development studies, from health studies, economics, etc., etc. And they provide this very nice description of three types of upscaling. So horizontal upscaling, that has to do with the geographical expansion of a climate service or the uptake by more users. The other type of upscaling is the creation of an enabling environment where through the co-development of a climate service, organizations are supported through this co-development process to become more familiar to this to already existing climate services, to adopt them. And then the functional upscaling, which has to do with the addition of new functions and elements to the original product. These are the most typical answers that were provided in the literature. What kind of services and technologies are developed, and how are this being scaled to different audiences? There are assumed goals and outcomes expected from the upscaling process. There is an improving the impact and effectiveness of particular climate services. We want to reach to wider audiences, offer new functionalities, and this is very important when moving from climate services developed for one sector into another sector, or thinking about climate services developed for the government and then moving to subnational governments, for instance. And then improving adaptation to climate change and natural variability. That's, of course, the ultimate goal that we'll have in this endeavor. So in May 24, under the auspice of the mission adaptation, they opened a call for expressions of interest to become part of this community of practice of the EU mission adaptation. And we organized different clusters interested in different topics. And one topic that came up was climate services in general. And we have 72 representatives from 19 Horizon Europe projects. And then we decided to focus on this concept of upscaling climate services. So we've had many, many meetings. It's going to be almost a year in a few months' time. And one of the things that we realized from the beginning was that upscaling is a very complex concept. It goes beyond a technical challenge. It is extremely complex to not only to define, but also to bring to practice, since it's not just the culmination, it's not just a goal, but it is probably the culmination of a process in itself that still needs a lot of understanding in terms of how to measure successful upscaling, for instance. When can we say that we have upscaled successfully a climate service? So those are the kind of questions that we've been discussing a lot in this community. And we try to better understand what is it that the other EU-funded projects took or understood about upscaling. So we have to contextualize this in the on the basis that the EU and the Horizon program defines certain goals. They define the goals of exploitation and dissemination of products, for instance. However, there are things that are very exclusive about the concept of upscaling and very deeply described also in the literature. I'm not going to get into that at this point, but we wanted to mostly explore what is it that the larger community of EU projects thought about that. So we launched this survey and we got feedback from 50 scientists and practitioners involved in EU projects. So this was a survey only for EU projects under the mission adaptation umbrella. So I'll just give you some preliminary results. This is not, this is work in progress, by the way. So this is super preliminary and we still need to do a lot more work before we embark on giving some additional ideas. But so we ask respondents, so what kind of barriers do you encounter to upscale a climate service? And some of the noticeable ones is the absence of a long-term vision or a strategy on upscaling. So the poor conceptual and methodological clarity of what scaling is all about. And most of respondents here agree or fully agree in that this is a barrier. Then there's another barrier that has to do with a lack of understanding of new recipient environments. So mostly when we develop a climate service, we tailor the process of co-development so that we can get to know who's going to use the climate service. But then in trying to move on to a new audience, of course, this is more problematic because we don't necessarily know the new environment beyond general characteristics of it. Then there was also the barrier related to the limited funding. And of course, when we work in Horizon Europe projects, our funding is limited, and many of the upscaling initiatives require additional time that's not covered by the project. So many questions emerge there in terms of what options exist to really reach this timing needed for upscaling. There's also a lack of business model for scaling up climate services. And I think that this also sheds light on the role of the private sector and how here synergies with the private sector are needed. Poor user engagement in climate service development, test and evaluation are probably the part of test and evaluation. So asking the question, we develop a prototype climate service in a Horizon Europe project. How much time do we take after the project? Or how much time we give within the scope of project for really testing whether people are using, stakeholders are using the climate services and for which purpose. So just to wrap it up, this is ongoing work. We don't have really a time frame to finish this collaboration because I think that beyond anything is really enriching. And we're working now on a series of papers, articles, and policy briefs. Also, of course, the Climate Europe colleagues are very much involved in this initiative. And I just wanted to mention a few things that are kind of surrounding our conversations right now, and this idea of good governance architecture for scalability or upscaling climate services. Do we need a specific governance architecture for that? Then, of course, conversations about deepening the understanding of public-private sector mechanisms, and I think that PCP-wise and Protect were really, really interesting examples, and they're also part of this network. We've also been discussing the role of quality standards for climate service development, especially in the context of proliferation of climate services that we need to scale up. So maybe standards, they play a very important role as well. We've been also discussing how to foster strategic collaboration between the different climate service centers, public sector, private sector, etc. That we need to have certain ways to maintain these collaborations ongoing, not just under the umbrella of the mission, but also in terms of specific research interests that might emerge. And finally, it comes down to the scalability practices. Which practices are more promising to really scale up climate services successfully into new audiences? So I'm going to leave it there, and I hope
Yep, absolutely. Thank you,
time.
Cristobal. Thank you very much. This is absolutely a hot topic and very important for everybody. So this is also a call for action, an invitation to connect to Cristobal, who is organizing this working group. If your project is considering interesting upscaling strategies, please let us know. Thank you very much. So our time is almost up. I would like to bring in Hans, as promised, to answer the question whether we need more funding to create the connections between groundwater and wildfire. Hans, what is your thought on it?
Yeah, so if you have a good management on your groundwater, you can prevent that the biomass of your vegetation above ground is drying out. And mostly in nature environment, but also in forest and shrubs environment, nature management is focused on the above ground situation. If you have in peacetime, when you have regular water conditions, you can preserve your groundwater table at the right height. And you have to also take measures over the years, maybe sometimes decades, to prevent that your groundwater conditions for your vegetation are decreasing. So once you are too late and there is not enough water, your biomass dries out, and from external factors like the sun or tourists or all kinds of ignition sources, it can directly ignite and spread over the whole area. So the water conditions are key to prevent wildfires.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Hans. And Loden, I have seen that you have answered to a couple of questions, but if you would like to come in and in 1 minute, summarize your answers. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Let me check on the questions again. So one question was about how we would deal with the UNESCO restrictions, and that's the way the research by design works. So we have multiple iterations. First off, we're going to simulate what the potential is of making these keys multifunctional, and afterwards we're going to narrow these design down to make it applicable to the real situation of Amsterdam. And it is a huge challenge to make it applicable to the to fit it within all of the restrictions. It's just it's difficult, yeah, for sure.
And the second one was about whether you can, with NMIMET, simulate also the impact of green roof. If you could very quickly reflect on that.
Yeah, those are predefined measures. You can also define them yourself if you want to have more blue-green roofs or different types of facades, and you can simulate what the effect would be on the external of the building. If you would like to know what it does with your energy balance of the building, that is a translation that it's not really incorporated yet. But you can say something about what happens to the surface temperature of the external of your building, which again, you can use to compare different types of measures with.
Thank you very much, Loden. And thank you to all our panelists and our speakers for the insightful presentation and information. We will break for a coffee for now for half an hour. Afterwards, we will resume with another session that is highly interesting, and it's dealing with the climate digital twin of destination Earth. It will be moderated by Susan. Susan, if you are with us, could you open your video camera so that everybody can see you? Yeah, thank you very much. So enjoy your coffee break, and I definitely invite you to join us for the next session that is going to be highly interesting. Thank you very much, and see you later.